Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. Big show today. A lot of coronavirus talk. The NHL came up with its plan. Major League Baseball's in a rough spot. The NBA's in a good spot. And something that has to do with the NBA's plan is coming into fruition. We'll get to it. A big injury for one of the contenders in the NHL. A lottery NBA team's coaching search is getting underway. KBO results from yesterday from this morning looking ahead to tomorrow. NASCAR will pick the race tonight and look back on last night's truck race. My second MLB mock draft, my 2013 MLB redraft, and my 2015 top 10 movies. All right, we'll start with the virus. The NHL made news yesterday. Gary Bettman spoke, and they have the plan in place for the season's return. The 24-team playoff is official, as we thought it was going to be. The regular season is over, and the 7 teams that are not in this postseason will obviously be in the lottery. The regular season player stats are done for the year, and NHL player awards can be voted on, and obviously before the season resumes. So on another show, I'll pick my regular season hockey award since the regular season's officially over. Bettman says that there are 10 hub cities under consideration: Vegas, Toronto, Chicago, Columbus, Edmonton, Dallas, Los Angeles, Minnesota, Vancouver, and Pittsburgh. I'm reading these notes based off of Pierre LeBrun from The Athletic. And Bettman confirms that the top 4 teams in each conference will play a 3-game round robin with playoff seeding at stake, while the bottom 8 teams in each conference play best of 5 play-in series. So the play-in series is best of 5, like I said on the show, so it would mean the third place teams in every division and the wild card teams and then the new teams. So that's 8 in each conference, obviously. And I said the projected matchups on yesterday's show that were the play-in round, so now we know that those play-in series are best of 5s. And then also Bettman says that the Return to Play Committee is still debating whether the format playoffs will use reseeding or bracketing, so to be determined on that front. First 2 rounds of the actual 16-team playoffs will be best of 5 or best of 7. The lottery, according to Bob McKenzie of TSN, will be held on Friday, June 26th. The number 1, 2, and 3 picks will be up for grabs. 15 teams, and who are the 7 that are done for the season. So like the likes of the Sabres, the Sharks, the Devils, the Senators. And the funny thing is, I mentioned the Sharks, the Senators actually have their pick courtesy of the Erik Karlsson trade. Now that trade looks really bad now for the Sharks because they didn't make the playoffs this year, and now they're giving a lottery pick to Ottawa. Now that trade looks better to Ottawa. Now Ottawa has to take advantage of that and make good on that selection. And then the 8 teams that are eliminated from the play-in series will be in the lottery as well. If the winner of the number 2 pick draw comes from the bottom 7, then the team is rewarded the number 2. And if the winner of the number 2 pick draws from the other 8 teams, the number 2 pick will be awarded in the Phase 2 lottery. And if the winner of the number 3 pick draw comes from the bottom 7, then that team is rewarded the number 3 pick. And if the winner of the number 3 pick draw comes from the other 8 teams, the number 3 pick will be awarded in the Phase 2 lottery. Bettman also says that the league probably needs to decide on the 2 hub cities within 3 or 4 weeks, so there's probably not going to be any fans. And Bettman reiterates that for next season could start as late as December, if not the start of January, if necessary. what the NHL should do is that they should start the season with the Winter Classic. I think that is a brilliant idea. The NBA should start Christmas for 2020-2021. I think that's a brilliant idea as well. So you would have the NBA starting on Christmas Day and then hockey a week later on New Year's. I think that would be incredible. And then New Year's Day would be absolutely loaded with the New Year's Six Bowls. I think the college football playoff is going to be on New Year's Day this year because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl that are college football playoff games this year. So that's going to be on New Year's Day as well as the start of the NHL season for 2020, 2021. It really should just be the 2021 season, just like the 12-13 season was just the 13 season because of the lockout. So that's really interesting. And I think the hockey should start on New Year's Day and that the NBA should start on Christmas. So again, the draft lottery is June 26th, and the draft is after the cup is presented. So we won't see the draft until probably September. Training camps open no earlier than the first half of July. The play-in round robin, best case, no earlier than late July. Playoffs likely won't begin before August. So you'll have August and September for the postseason for hockey, it looks like. And to be determined, round 1 based on reseeding and bracketing, and to be determined rounds 1 and 2, best of 5 or best of 7. But that's really in terms of the 16 and 8. And then what we know is that the conference finals and the Stanley Cup final will both be the best of 7. Major League Baseball is in a rough spot right now because it was reported that the owners presented a plan where the higher paid players in the league will take significant pay cuts. And a lot of the players are against this. A lot of the fans are against it. I'm against this. I think this is what's holding up their plan to come back. So Passan of ESPN, along with Chicago Cubs reporter Jesse Rogers, say that the MLB drew the ire of Players Union Tuesday with an economic proposal that called for significant cut in salaries that would affect all players, and particularly the game's highest paid. The long-awaited plan, the first volley in an expected back-and-forth that will determine whether baseball returns in 2020, proposed a marginal salary structure in which the lowest-paid players would receive close to a full share of their portrayed salaries, and the game's stars receive far less than expected. Players immediately bristled at the proposal, which includes an 82-game schedule that would begin in early July after a 21-day spring training. Sources familiar with the plan said teams would play 3 exhibition games in the final week before starting a regular season that would finish on September 27th. I think that's the date that the regular season would have finished, even if there was a real season without the COVID. So that's kind of ironic. This is how the scale would go. 563,501 to 1 million paid at 72.5%. About $1 million to $5 million paid at 50%, $5 million to $10 million paid at 40%, $10 million to $20 million paid at 30%, and $20 million and not paid at 20%. And under that formula, Mike Trout, who at 37,666,666 has the highest full season salary in baseball this year, and would make $19,065,843 on a trade basis over 82 games, and would have a base salary of $5,748,577, though players would be paid for only games played. Trout can make upward of $2.5 million more under the proposal if the league completes the World Series. So I'm not a fan of this new proposal. The players will certainly turn it down, and then the owners and Rob Manfred are under a lot of pressure to come up with a different plan to really get the players to buy in. I'm not confident as I was a couple weeks ago about there being a baseball season. I think hockey is now a lock to come back, as well as the NBA. And baseball, I think, is the murkiest right now. Heck, I think it's more likely the NFL starts its season on time than Major League Baseball comes back. And the same for college football, and the same for college basketball as well. So baseball's under a lot of pressure to come up with a new plan to come back. I think it's 50-50 that baseball comes back. But at gunpoint, I think it does come back, but I don't feel super about it. And I think that the 4th of July plan is now wishful thinking, but who the hell knows at this point, because there are a lot of different rumors every day that come out from the media. And Jeff Passan, I think, is the best reporter in the sport right now, and he's normally money with this stuff. Bob Nightingale seems confident that the 4th of July thing may actually happen, but as we know, Bob Nightingale is one of the worst reporters of anybody that's established in all sports. So, so it should be interesting to see what happens with baseball. The NBA got some good news, and I think news that broke today that Disney World will reopen the Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom on July 11th, and their other two big theme parks in Epcot and Hollywood Studios will reopen on July 15th. That is good news for the NBA. You're asking me why? Because it looks like that the NBA is going to resume their season. It looks like at the the worldwide sports place, which has a big arena that you see a lot of college basketball tournaments being played in. They use that arena for a lot of things. You see like dance and gymnastics competitions and cheerleading competitions being held there for all levels. You've seen, I believe, hockey tournaments being held there, if I'm not mistaken. The Braves facilities are in Disney World for spring training because they have a whole baseball section there as well, and then the Braves play their spring training games there, and then obviously the basketball, as I alluded to. Good news that Disney World's reopening. They also announced that SeaWorld will reopen on July 11th as well, so that's big news for the state of Florida. So maybe I'll get a Florida representative and friend of mine on the show that I've been doing the Brew Crew show with. His name is Dan Wheeler. Maybe I'll get him on the show to talk about everything reopening, Disney World, and how the NBA would come back with it. So I think Dan would be honored to be coming on my show. So maybe I'll ask him to help me out here and discussing the NBA's plan to go to the worldwide sports arena in Disney World. So it looks like Disney's a done deal for the NBA, and there's no plan expected on Friday, although that does seem like the expected plan. So Woj reported today is that no current expectation for a decision on NBA's return to play plan on Friday, despite Board of Governors meeting. I think the plan to play thing will be unveiled for the NBA next week. I think that the NHL laid out a very good first step. And heck, I hope baseball's keeping an eye on that as well. So, so it looks like the NBA is going to Disney World. And the fact that they announced today, the state of Florida announced that Walt Disney World will reopen in July, in the middle of the month, is good for the NBA's plan to go there. All right, now speaking of the NHL and its plan to return, one of the contenders has a very key injury that was a somewhat surprising injury in the NHL. Penguins forward Nick Bjugstad has been shut down after having surgery for undisclosed injury. Bjugstad is somebody that is a role guy for them. It hurts their depth, but I still think that they can survive this loss. The Penguins have been very good at surviving injuries over the last couple of seasons. They survived Jake Gensel's injury this year by getting into back into the conversation for being a cup contender, and they're going to get Gensel back. And Gensel's obviously a more impactful player than Bukestad, so at least they're getting Jake Gensel back, and they're playing the Canadians in the play-in round. And obviously, I think the Canadians are one of the worst teams that are in this playoff round. So Pittsburgh should have an advantage here, even though they lost a role player for the rest of the season. But they are getting one of their better players back in Jake Gensel, so that will certainly help them. And I think his comeback is more vital to them to this injury that they just suffered. Shams of The Athletic today reported that the New York Knicks are starting to begin their coaching search. Tom Thibodeau looks like the leading candidate for this job. Thibodeau is somebody that I have mixed feelings about personally. I had James Helliston on the show, and we talked about how we thought that Tom Thibodeau is somebody that is a solid coach, but I think that the league has passed his scheme by. Obviously, he was an assistant under Doc Rivers with Boston, and then he landed the job in Chicago after they got rid of Vinny Del Negro in 2010, and in his first year, they got the 1 seed in the East. Derrick Rose had his breakout year and won the MVP, and he helped guys like Joakim Noah and Luol Deng develop into solid players. He helped develop Jimmy Butler into a superstar with the Bulls, and then it's funny because they let go of Thibodeau in 2015 because he had some issues with John Paxson, who is no longer the president of the Bulls, and their former general manager, Gar Forman, so they fired him, and I still think that that was a mistake to this day because they have not had a good coach since Tom Thibodeau. So that was a mistake by the Bulls at the time, and I still think it was a mistake because of who they had after. Fred Hoiberg did not work out. Jim Boylan's going to be fired sooner rather than later, and then they'll get a start on their coaching search as well. And then Thibodeau goes to Minnesota, and then they acquire Jimmy Butler, who he had in Chicago. And I still think that Minnesota did well in that first, when they initially acquired Jimmy Butler. Butler helped them make the postseason that year. He was the best player on that team. Everyone's going to say Karl Anthony Towns, but no, Jimmy Butler is a better player than Karl Anthony Towns. Jimmy Butler, I think, is one of the more underappreciated players in the league because of his ability to be a two-way guy and could play at the 2 and the 3. And in Miami signed Butler, and he's been their top guy there. And I think Thibodeau deserves credit for helping develop Jimmy Butler. Now the cons is that the league has sort of passed him by, and without Jimmy Butler, Tom Thibodeau was not a very good coach with the Timberwolves, so he just needs the right players around him. It worked in Chicago, obviously, Rose, Noah, Carlos Boozer, Taj Gibson, etc. And then he gets fired by Minnesota, and then the late Flip Saunders' son took over that team, and they really didn't go anywhere. But he really didn't help develop Andrew Wiggins and even Karl Anthony Towns because he's somebody with a defensive reputation, and those two players, in Wiggins and Towns, are perceived good offensive players, not defensive players. And then they wound up trading Wiggins to Golden State, and Karl Anthony Towns is obviously still with Minnesota. So Tom Thibodeau is, in my opinion, like I said, the league has passed him by, and I don't think he's the right fit for a rebuilding Knicks team. The guy who I think is the right fit is Kenny Atkinson, who they will be interviewing for the job according to Ian Begley of SNY. Ian Begley, I think, is the best reporter that the Knicks have in terms of their media, and they are interviewing Atkinson. Atkinson was an assistant under Mike D'Antoni with the Knicks, and then Atkinson was with Popovich and with Budenholzer. Like, he's been around good coaches, and then he gets his first crack with the Nets, and he had a couple losing years with Brooklyn, but that was because Brooklyn really didn't have a lot of talent. And then Sean Marks pulled off the great trade for D'Angelo Russell, and then he helped develop Russell into a better player. And then even before they got Russell, he helped develop guys like Karis LeVert and Joe Harris into solid starters in the NBA. And then I think that he lost his job because the new owners came in and they wanted a change. And the other thing is that Durant and Irving probably didn't like him. I think Durant and Irving got that guy fired. And if I'm the Knicks, I hire Atkinson. He will help develop young guys like Mitch Robinson and R.J. Barrett and all the other young guys that they have that really haven't hit their potential yet. And stick it to the Nets. Stick it to Kevin Durant, because obviously the Knicks were looked upon as the favorites to sign Kevin Durant up until the 11th hour when Brooklyn swooped in. And I just think that would be the very best fit for them. And it would be great if they hired Atkinson. I would pick Atkinson over Thibodeau at this point, and Atkinson is more suited for today's NBA than Tom Thibodeau. Now I want to go over this morning's KBO results and look ahead to tomorrow's games. So without further ado, here we go. NC over Kaiwoom 10-3, LG over Hanwha 15-4, KT over Kia 5-0, Samsung over Lotte 11-1, and Doosan over SK 4-2. Same matchups pretty much tomorrow morning. SK and Doosan, I gotta go with Doosan. Kaiwoom and NC, gotta go with NC. Samsung and Lotte, I think this is a bounce back spot for Lotte. They've fallen off after a good start, and I think this is a good spot for them at home to have a bit of a bounce back here. So I think Lotte will win that one. Kia and KT, that's a tough call. I'm going to go with Kia on the road there. And then LG and Hanwha, I'm going to go with LG here to continue its fine play. So there's my KBO for tonight. And now I'm going to do NASCAR. Last night was the truck race, and then tonight you have Sprint Cup. So, the truck race winner last night was Chase Elliott, as I predicted on this very podcast. Second place was the guy who I considered picking to win this race, and that was Kyle Busch. Third place, Zane Smith. I think Zane Smith had a good race. Fourth place, Brett Moffitt, who I felt had a solid race as well. Fifth place, Sheldon Creed. Sixth place was John Hunter Nemechek. Seventh, Johnny Sauter. Eighth, Ty Majeski. Ninth, Austin Hill. 10th, Ben Rhodes. 11th, Ross Chaston. 12th, Grant Effinger. 13th, Tyler Ankrum. 14th, Christian X. 15th, Rafael Lassard. 16th, Derek Cross. 17th, Tate Fogelman. 18th, Code Rohrbog. 19th, Austin Wayne Self. 20th, Tanner Gray. Other notables, 23rd, Angela Ruck. 26th, Jennifer Jo Cobb. 27th, Natalie Decker. 28th, Bailey Curry, so a couple females there. And among other notables, Brendan Poole, 38th. Jordan Anderson, 31st. Brian Dawsett, 34th. All right, and then Sprint Cup tonight, you have their second race in Charlotte in a 4-day span. A lot of storylines going into the race tonight. So here's the starting lineup. So in the pole you have William Byron. Second, Alex Bowman. Third, Michael McDowell. Fourth, Matt DiBenedetto. Fifth, John Hunter Nemechek. Sixth, Eric Amarola. Seventh, Oh, wait a minute. Eric Amarola is listed for 5th and 6th. That's a little strange. So I want to see where Amarola is actually starting. So Amarola starting 6th, John Hunter Nemechek 5th, Austin Dillon 7th, Joey Logano 8th, Cole Custer 9th, Eric Jones 10th, 11th Chris Boucher, 12th Chris Bell, 13th Tyler Riddick, 14th Kurt Busch, 15th Martin Truex Jr., 15th Truex, 16th Kevin Harvick, 17th Kyle Busch, 18th Ryan Blaney, 19th Chase Elliott, 20th Brad Keselowski, 21st Reed Sorensen, 22nd Ryan Preece, 23rd Corey LaJoie, 24th Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 25th Ty Dillon, 26th Matt Kenseth, 27th Ryan Newman, 28th Daniel Suarez, 29th Denny Hamlin, 30th Brendan Poole, 31st J.J. Yeley, 32nd B.J. McLeod, 33rd Garrett Smithley, 34th Timmy Hill, 35th Quinn Houff, 36th Joey Yace, 37th Josh Bilicki, 38th Bubba Wallace, 39th Clint Boyer, and 40th Jimmy Johnson. This is ballsy, and I normally don't do this. I'm picking Jimmy Johnson. I get it, he's starting last. He was disqualified, as we talked about on the show yesterday, for a failed inspection. I think he's going to bounce back here and win this race. This is his best track. He's had mega success here, and I think that he's going to shut up some haters here and really redeem himself for that disqualification from Sunday night. And redemption and bouncing back has been like my theme for NASCAR since the comeback and with my picks. As you notice, like I picked Chase Elliott, even though the reasoning was weird because how he cost himself the race on Sunday night with going to pit road before the green-white checkered. And obviously I was right about Chase Elliott. And now I think that it's Jimmy Johnson's turn to bounce back. And I do think he's going to win the race. I don't have the odds in front of me, but that is indeed my pick to win tonight's race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now I'm going to do my second mock draft for Major League Baseball of the mock draft season. 2 weeks from today will be the actual draft. So next week I'm probably going to do a mock draft on next Wednesday. And I'll probably do one Friday before the weekend next week. And then the following week we'll do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So after today we'll do 5 more mock drafts. So it looks like I'll have 7 mock drafts for you through the mock draft baseball season, as I like to call it. So without further ado, here's my second mock draft. Number 1, Detroit Tigers, Spencer Torkelson, first baseman, left fielder, Arizona State. It seems like Torkelson is the overwhelming favorite to go first overall. Torkelson was one of the most feared hitters in all college baseball throughout the last 3 seasons. There's a chance he also blows through the minors and is in the bigs sooner than folks expect. Number 2, Baltimore Orioles, Austin Martin, third base center fielder, Vanderbilt. The Orioles have a tough decision as they can go with Martin or the best pitcher in the draft with Asa Lacy. They go with Martin here, who dazzles with a hit tool that is easily a plus, utilizing a swing with natural loft and double plus bat speed. Number 3, Miami Marlins, Asa Lacy, lefty, Texas A&M. The Marlins are happy with whomever falls to them at 3, whether it's Lacy or Austin Martin. Lacy is someone that is equipped with a 4-pitch mix, 2 of which already great at plus or better, a fastball and a slider, with another in the changeup seemingly on its way up. 4th, Kansas City Royals, Nick Gonzalez, second baseman, New Mexico State. Gonzalez is one of the more interesting prospects as we head closer to the draft. Folks are skeptical of him due to putting up great numbers against lesser competition. Some think Gonzalez won't be able to stick at second base long term, but I see his makeup and worth ethic being able to keep the elite hit tool he carries at the Keystone. 5th, Toronto Blue Jays, Zach Veen, outfielder, Spruce Creek High School in Florida. The Blue Jays could go in a number of directions here at this selection. Veen is the best prep school prospect in this draft class, and he has high upside. His vision at the plate looks advanced well beyond his age and allows his violent swing to barrel up balls with ease, leading to the hit tool grading at average while projecting a better peak. 6. Seattle Mariners. Emerson Hancock, righty, Georgia. There's a case to be made that Hancock is the best pitcher in the draft, but he's probably the safest bet in terms of pure starting pitchers. Hancock presents the same four pitch mix as Osalesi, a fastball, slider, curveball, and changeup, with less electricity but more command and polish. 7. Pittsburgh Pirates. Reed Detmers, lefty, Louisville. This would be a great selection for the Pirates as they need more young pitching in their farm system. The curveball is unspeakably good when it's on, and that is all the time. He pounds the strike zone and is great at getting swings and misses. Number 8, San Diego Padres. Max Meyer, lefty, Minnesota. The Padres are a bit of a wild card here at the 8th pick. Here I have them playing it safe and going with the college pitcher in Meyer. He is a former closer who only started 15 games while in college and presents a certain reliever risk due to size and durability concerns. But the question marks are overshadowed by the explosive arsenal that Meyer brings to the table. 9. Colorado Rockies. Heston Kjerstad, outfielder, Arkansas. The Rockies can go in a number of directions here, although I feel they should go with the pitcher. Kjerstad is someone that has a unique, complex left-handed swing he brings to the table with double plus raw power, who many comp to Philadelphia's Rhys Hoskins. 10th, Los Angeles Angels. Cade Cavalli, righty, Oklahoma. The Angels are an interesting team here with this selection. Cavalli was the ace of the Sooners staff, who people are mixed about. This could be a risky pick due to the flaws he has as well as injury issues. What makes him intriguing is his ability to strike guys out and his great fastball and a devastating slider. 11. Chicago White Sox. Patrick Bailey, catcher, NC State. The White Sox can go in a number of directions here with their selection. Bailey is a defense-first catcher who's shown great athleticism and is a switch hitter that's shown power from both sides of the ball both sides from the plate with solid tools in front and brings a great combination of the two. 12. Cincinnati Reds. Garrett Mitchell, center fielder, UCLA. The Reds can go in a number of different directions here, but here I have them making an upside play. Mitchell is a game changer with a truly elite speed tool and is capable of making a legitimate impact on the bases while being a plus defender in center field. 13. San Francisco Giants. Mike Abel, righty, Jesuit High School, Oregon. A top prospect who was hurt by the shortened 2020 season is off the board here to the Giants. The righty has a clean, fluid delivery that offers projection and the potential for him to have 3 above-average pitches. He has all the makings of being a top rotation arm. 14. Texas Rangers. Garrett Crochet, lefty, Tennessee. This would be a win for the Rangers as they land a very good college arm here with this selection. Inconsistency and an early season injury is what will probably cost him from going even higher than this. But with a plus slider and the developing changeup, the Tennessee product has some of the best raw stuff in the class. 15. Philadelphia Phillies. Robert Hassel III, outfielder, Independence High School in Tennessee. The Phillies have options here with this selection, and here I have them taking a talented outfielder falling to them. Hassel may present the best hit tool from any prep player in this year's draft, including the guys picked ahead of him. He brings it with a compact left-handed swing with plus bat control, allowing him to control the strike zone better than most players his age. 16. The Chicago Cubs. Tyler Soderstrom, catcher, outfielder, Turlock High School in California. The Cubs have depth in their organization at the catcher position, but I have them selecting Soderstrom here. He is very well-rounded and is known for his offensive game. He has quick hands that generate bat speed, which allows him to consistently barrel up pitches from the left side of the plate. 17. Boston Red Sox. Austin Hendrick, outfielder, West Allegheny High School, Pennsylvania. The Sox are an interesting team here in the first round, and I have them snagging Hendrick, who I had going higher in my first mock. Hendrick is a free swinger who gets full extension when he sees a ball he wants, which leads to some swing and miss concerns, but he does have good hand placement on the bat. 18. Arizona Diamondbacks. Pete Crow Armstrong, outfielder, Harvard Westlake High School in California. The Diamondbacks go with an upside play here with Armstrong, who could go higher than this. The left-handed hitting center fielder has 5-tool potential and is a prototypical top-of-the-lineup hitter with the defensive abilities to stick in center field. 19. New York Mets. Jared Kelly, righty, Refugio High School in Texas. The Mets get themselves a steal here with the prep arm in Kelly. Many people project Kelly to be a frontline starter and has confidence in his swing and miss changeup and displays potential with his slider. 20. Milwaukee Brewers. Cole Wilcox, righty, Georgia. Wilcox is one of the more underrated arms in this class, and the Brewers would gladly take him here as he would instantly become their best pitching prospect. Wilcox leans on 2+ pitches in the fastball and slider, but he is only a sophomore that doesn't have much starting experience. 21. St. Louis Cardinals. Carmen Mlodzinski, righty, South Carolina. The Cardinals have options, but they go with the fascinating pitching prospect in Mlodzinski, who looked amazing in the Cape Cod League, but spotty versus better competition. He has shown flashes with a few good pitches in college, but this is what makes him a wild card in the draft. 22. Washington Nationals. Slade Sassoni, righty, Miami. The Nationals have been heavily linked to college arms, and here I have them snagging one with Sassoni. Many people project Sassoni to be a reliever in the future, and his pure stuff measures up against a lot of other college arms. 23. Cleveland Indians. Tanner Burns, righty, Auburn. Here goes another college arm off the board as the Indians snag one here with Burns. He has 3 above-average pitches with his fastball, curveball, changeup, and he throws them with solid command. 24. Tampa Bay Rays. Casey Martin, shortstop, Arkansas. The Rays are a team that are in excellent shape in terms of their farm system, so they aren't under pressure to go in a certain direction. He has blazing speed and above-average power, although there's questions about his hitting ability and has skills to stick at shortstop and also would profile well in center field if he was moved out of the infield. 25. Atlanta Braves. Chris McMahon, righty, Miami. The Braves are another team in good shape in terms of its farm system. Here I have them taking the polished righty McMahon, who flashes an exciting 3-pitch mix that all possess above average or better qualities. 26. Oakland Athletics. Dylan Cruz, outfielder, Lake Mary High School in Florida. Cruz is another one of these intriguing high school prospects that have high upside. He's a lightning-quick hands allow him to show plus raw power from the right side of the plate. 27. Minnesota Twins. Ed Howard, shortstop, Mount Carmel High School in Illinois. The Twins should be targeting a pitcher at this selection, but instead I have them taking Howard. His ability to make all the plays necessary to stick at shortstop stands out, and he can seem to cover ground effortlessly without having a plus-speed tool. 28. The New York Yankees. Daniel Cabrera, outfielder, LSU. The Yankees are an interesting spot here since their farm system isn't what it was 3 or 4 years ago. Here they go with Cabrera, who doesn't blow you away in any facet of his game, but his hit tool can reach plus at peak, and you can't find anything within the profile that grades worse than average. And 29, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Nick Lofton, shortstop, Baylor. The Dodgers are in excellent shape farm system-wise, so they can go in any direction they'd like. Lofton is someone that a lot of people feel that will go higher than this due to his bat-to-ball skills and his ability to stay up the middle defensively. Now I'm going to do my 2013 MLB redraft, which was interesting to do because there are some players in this that are awesome, and there are other players in this one that have a chance to be awesome but haven't lived up to potential yet, so this was an interesting one. Number 1, Houston Astros, Cody Bellinger. Bellinger, in my opinion, has emerged as the best player from this draft after winning the National League MVP last year, and he really put it all together this past year with the Dodgers, helping them win the division yet again, although they were out in the first round. Instead, the Astros took Mark Appel, and boy, Cody Bellinger with Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve would have been something. Him in center field, George Springer in right. Oh my God, did they miss an opportunity. But a lot of people killed them because they passed on the guy that the Cubs took and who I have them taking in this redraft, and that is their very own Kris Bryant, who was the 2016 National League MVP, helping break the curse for the Cubs. And he's somebody that is a versatile player, can play at a lot of different positions, like Bellinger too. And the difference between Bellinger and Bryant is that Bellinger's a better defensive player than Bryant, although he is not terrible defensively, Kris Bryant. But Kris Bryant's better known for his power and his hitting abilities rather than his fielding, and Bellinger's just great at both. Colorado Rockies at number 3 go with Aaron Judge. I think when I did this redraft last year, the year before, I had Aaron Judge going 1, but that was before Cody Bellinger broke out, and it was when Aaron Judge was coming off that spectacular rookie season. Aaron Judge is interesting because he's somebody that has been injured more often than not throughout his career, other than the year that he won the Rookie of the Year and should have been the AL MVP. But the funny thing is that his numbers, if you alluded them to a whole season, then they're awesome. And that's the case for Aaron Judge, going ahead of Cody Bellinger and Kris Bryant in this redraft. But, I have Aaron Judge going here. Been an all-star multiple times, obviously. And he's somebody that, if he was to stay healthy a whole season, would be perceived better among the media and fans of other teams than he is among Yankee fans. And could you imagine him with Nolan Arenado and Charlie Blackmon and Trevor Story with the foundation of that Rockies team? And instead they go with John Gray. The Twins at number 4, I have them going with Sean Manaea. Manaea obviously has emerged as the ace of the Oakland Athletics staff. It was unfortunate that he had Tommy John surgery, and he's somebody I think has a comeback player of the year potential, since he really was the ace of the Oakland Athletics staff before he got injured, and he threw the no-hitter against the Red Sox, and he certainly would have helped the Twins for sure, and probably would be their best pitcher right now. And instead they go with Cole Stewart. The Indians at 5 go with Austin Meadows. Austin Meadows I'm higher on than some others. He probably would go lower in a lot of these redrafts, but I have him going here because I really think the Rays have turned him into the player that many people expected him to be. He just needed a change of scenery from Pittsburgh, and he got that with Tampa Bay, and now he's an all-star player with Tampa Bay, putting up gaudy numbers there. And he certainly would have been great on Cleveland. Could you imagine if they took him instead of Clint Frazier? But maybe if they did take him instead of Clint Frazier, maybe he's in that Andrew Miller trade and the Yankees have him instead of Clint Frazier. Boy, that would change the Yankees' outlook for the future. They would have him instead of Giancarlo Stanton, probably, if you think about it. Boy, did the Indians miss an opportunity there. And instead, they went with Clint Frazier. The Marlins at number 6 go with Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil really has come into his own with the Mets the last couple years. Good leadoff hitter, solid second baseman for them. Good speed guy, showed some power, and he'd be a solid building block on the Marlins right now for sure. And instead they go with Colin Moran. The Boston Red Sox at number 7 go with Matt Boyd. So it was either him or Tim Anderson, but I chose Matt Boyd here for Boston because if they took Tim Anderson, it would have made no sense because they already have Xander Bogaerts. So Matt Boyd certainly would have been great on Boston. He'd be their best pitcher right now with Chris Sale currently on the shelf. So that would have been a really good pick. He'd be a really good number 2 there behind Sale. And maybe if they took Matt Boyd instead of Trey Ball, maybe they don't they aren't really in abyss right now. Although they did win a couple World Series, one in 2013 and then in 2018. The Royals at number 8 go with Tim Anderson. Anderson, obviously a very solid player, broke out last year at the White Sox. Very good hitter for average, leadoff guy, showed a lot of power. So Tim Anderson really would have been a good building block for Kansas City. Good leadoff hitter for them, and him and I'm blanking on the kid's name. Mondesi would have been a nice duo for them long term. And instead they go with Hunter Dozier. The Pirates at number 9 go with Hunter Renfroe. With Austin Meadows off the board, they go with Renfroe. Renfroe is somebody that showed a lot of flashes of being a really good player in San Diego. And then they traded him in a deal that I think they could end up regretting down the road to Tampa Bay. And I really think the Tampa Bay is going to get a lot out of Hunter Renfroe like they did with Austin Meadows. So, Pirates with Renfroe, maybe they do end up trading Renfroe to Tampa instead of Austin Meadows in the Chris Archer deal. Who knows? But who knows? Maybe Renfroe would have found his potential in Pittsburgh. And instead, they go with Austin Meadows, who we talked about already. The Blue Jays at number 10 go with Hunter Dozier. So Hunter Dozier falls from number 8 to number 10. Dozier is somebody that really had a breakthrough year with the Royals last year, a little bit of a late bloomer. Good power hitter, good building block for KC for now. And instead, the Blue Jays go with Philip Bickford. Oof. And he didn't even sign. The Mets at number 11 go with Trey Mancini. It's unfortunate with Trey Mancini right now because he has cancer and he's not going to play this season as he recovers from that. So, best of wishes go to Trey Mancini. I think Trey Mancini is an underrated player. Really has been stuck on those bad Orioles teams, and I think being on a good team would really bring a lot out of him. I always thought he would have been a good fit in Oakland on the Athletics. I think he would have been a good fit on the Mets, too. I think that some other teams would be solid fits for Mancini instead of that terrible Orioles team. But, yeah, this would have been a solid pick for New York, as Mancini, I think, would have been a good starting left fielder for them and hitting probably 5th or 6th in that lineup. And instead, they go with Dominic Smith. The Mariners at 12 go with Luke Voit. Luke Voit is someone that's very interesting. He gets traded to the Yankees and really puts them on his back for a little while there in September of 2018, helping them get that first wild card spot in the American League. And then he really came into his own a lot last year when a lot of their key players got injured. And then after all the key players came back, he regressed mightily. So you could argue he should be lower. You could argue he should be higher. But I think 12 is the right spot for Luke Voit. I think that he's somebody that could provide 20-plus homers in a season, a very streaky guy. I don't know if he would have fared out in Seattle because that's obviously a bigger ballpark. And he's somebody that is a right-handed hitter that loves to hit on the opposite field. So I don't think that would have been the best fit. So maybe they would have traded him for something down the road. Instead, Seattle goes with DJ Peterson. Boy, was that a huge bust. Oh my God. They really were high on that kid. 13, the Padres go with Marco Gonzalez. Marco Gonzalez is interesting. He's somebody that was drafted by the Cardinals, showed a lot of potential, and then they traded him to Seattle in the deal that netted the Cardinals Tyler O'Neill, who we'll talk about in a little while. Marco Gonzalez really does benefit from pitching in the big ballpark in Seattle, and I think he's best suited for those type of parks. Although he was promising with the Cardinals, don't get me wrong, and him on the Padres would have been excellent as like a number 2 or 3 type of starter. Instead, San Diego goes with Hunter Renfroe. The Pittsburgh Pirates at 14 go with Ryan McMahon. McMahon showed flashes last year playing with the Rockies a lot last year. He's somebody that hasn't really put it all together quite yet, but I think has a lot of potential. and a lot of power, and I think Coors could do him wonders. And him in Pittsburgh would have been interesting, obviously. I don't know if he would have lasted there or they moved him in another position because of the presence of Josh Bell. Instead, Pittsburgh goes with Reese McGuire. The Diamondbacks at 15 go with John Gray. So John Gray falls from 3 to 15. John Gray, interesting with him, had a promising year in 2017. 2018 regressed mightily, and then he sort of bounced back in 19, was a little better, and is somebody that I think could be traded to a different team that could really fix him. I think that the Diamondbacks would be an interesting fit for him. That's the irony there. So I think he would have been fine with Arizona. That would have been a solid pick by them. Instead, the Diamondbacks went with Braden Shipley. The Phillies at number 16 go with Trevor Williams. Trevor Williams is interesting. He's someone that's a little erratic. He had a career year a few years ago and then regressed last year. Although he's still shown some flashes with the Pirates. He certainly would be a nice back-end starter for Philadelphia. Instead, they go with J.P. Crawford. The White Sox at 17 go with Ryan Stanek. Stanek is someone I think Tampa Bay will come to regret trading away in the deal that landed them that other Trevor Richards from Miami, and then they threw in another big prospect in there, Jesus Sanchez. I think Miami's going to end up winning that deal long term, and I said it at the time of the deadline, although Richards did help Tampa Bay win that wild card game and pitch some big innings for them. But Stanek was the front and center in terms of inventing the MLB opener. He excelled in that role with the Rays and excelled as a reliever for them as well. And I think he'll really help Miami. And I think that the White Sox, he would have been fine there. And who knows, maybe they would have traded Stanek by now. And maybe they would have gotten a nice return for him. I don't know if the Tampa thing will work out with Trevor Richards, but I do really like Ryan Stanek a lot. The Dodgers at 18, actually no, the White Sox, by the way, took Tim Anderson, who we already discussed. Dodgers at 18 go with Chad Green, another great reliever, somebody that's interesting. Obviously was very reliable for Joe Girardi and the Yankees in 2017 when they made their surprise run to the LCS. Obviously, he was the victim of the no challenge, gives up the Grand Slam to Lindor. Had a bad 2018, and that was because I personally felt that Grand Slam and the non-challenge pretty much shook him, and he wasn't going to recover from that. But it took a while for him to recover because he really excelled as an opener for the Yankees last year and coming in relief spots as well. Although he did have a couple poor games as the opener, including the LCS Game 6. Obviously, you could argue that's asterisk because of the Astros cheating thing. But, yeah. Chad Green's a really good pitcher. The Indians were just his nemesis, and I think he would have been absolutely wonderful on the Dodgers, being the eighth inning guy before Kenley Jansen. Instead, the Dodgers go with Chris Anderson. The St. Louis Cardinals at 19 go Colin Moran. So Colin Moran falls from 6 to 19. Moran's a solid player for Pittsburgh and is somebody that I think is in the wrong situation. I think if he was on another team, he would have been fine. He obviously was the prize in the Garrett Cole trade for Houston. For Pittsburgh. And he's bounced around a little bit. Houston stole him in that one trade in 2014 that Miami explicably made, and then Moran ended up in Pittsburgh in part of the deal that sent Garrett Cole to Houston. But yeah, Moran, I think, would have been trade bait on the Cardinals. Or maybe he would be their third baseman today, you never know. And instead the Cards went with Marco Gonzalez, who we talked about earlier. To 20, the Detroit Tigers go with Clint Frazier. So Clint Frazier falls from 5 to 20. He would have been higher than this had he not had some injury issues and whatnot and had not been so poor defensively. The issue for him is obviously his concussions and his lack of great defensive play in the outfield. He has a good bat, has some good power skills. I don't think the Tigers would have been the right place for him because that's a big outfield there, obviously, in a bigger ballpark. I thought that the Yankees could have been the right place for him, but I think that's still to be determined. He's somebody I think is certainly going to be traded. Actually, I said that 2 years ago. It never happened. Within the next year or so, in case like the Yankees, let's say they lose James Paxton or Marcelo Tanaka in free agency, and they have to go out and get a pitcher. I really think that Clint Frazier would be the key to any deal in that. So he's facing a big year, and I don't know if he really would have helped the Tigers or not. But maybe he would have been trade bait for them, and maybe they go for it in one of those last Justin Verlander seasons, and they deal him in another random trade, but you never know. And instead, Detroit went with Jonathan Crawford. Tampa at 21 goes with Chad Pinder. I like Chad Pinder. He's a solid player, good utility guy, perfect fit in Oakland, so he landed in the right situation for his sake. Good defensive player, and he would have been a good fit on Tampa Bay as well. Instead, they go with Nick Ciuffo. The Orioles at number 22 go with Tyler O'Neill. I talked about Tyler O'Neill before and how the Cardinals traded for him by dealing away Marco Gonzalez to Seattle. O'Neill is somebody with a lot of potential. He really hasn't seen that much playing time, whether it's because of injuries or inconsistent play due to the Cardinal stuff. It's similar to the Yankees with Clint Frazier in a sense, except that the difference is that I think Frazier was more highly touted than O'Neill, although O'Neill was highly touted as well. Both these guys are obviously first-round picks in the draft. And then, actually, O'Neill wasn't a first-round pick. He was a later pick, I thought. But Tyler O'Neill on the Orioles would have been brilliant. He would have gotten enough playing time there, probably in right field, taking advantage of short porch in Camden Yards. So that would have been an excellent fit for them. And instead they go with Hunter Harvey. Number 23, the Texas Rangers go with Adam Frazier. He's a very scrappy player on the Pirates. Not a huge fan of him. He's fast. He's kind of like Brandon Nimmo on the Mets. Like, he's best suited, in my opinion, as like a fourth outfielder. So I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he probably would have seen playing time in Texas. And instead, the Rangers go with Alex Chichi Gonzalez. The Athletics at 24 go with J.P. Crawford. So J.P. Crawford falls from 16 to 24. Crawford was somebody who Philadelphia traded away to Seattle for Gene Segura. Crawford is somebody that really hasn't lived up to the potential yet. I don't love the Seattle fit for him, although he did show some promise at the end of the season in Seattle last year, but I just don't think Seattle's the right fit for him, but you never know, I could be wrong. And I think he would have been great in Oakland. I think Oakland would have been fine, although that's a big ballpark, and he's a pretty solid defensive shortstop. But I just think that Oakland would have been a better fit for him than Seattle. And I think that there's really wouldn't be any pressure on him there like it is in Seattle and like it was in Philadelphia. Instead, they go with Billy McKinney. The Giants at 25 go with Michael Lorenzen. Lorenzen's a really solid reliever for the Reds. He really has come into his own his last couple years. He's a good power hitter, too. So they use him to full advantage there in the National League until they inevitably get a DH. But Lorenzen's a really good pitcher. I think underrated because the Reds, I just think that their bullpen's underrated, period, end of story. And I think Rafael Iglesias and Amir Garrett get all the love there. And I think Lorenzen is really, really good. And he certainly would have helped San Francisco the past couple years, and I think he's someone that San Francisco probably would have traded and got a lot back for. And instead, San Francisco went with Christian Arroyo. The Yankees at 26 go with Corey Knebel. Corey Knebel's interesting. He hasn't pitched in a while because he's recovering from Tommy John surgery. If I'm not mistaken, he's still on the Brewers. He's somebody that bounced around a lot. He was on a bunch of different teams. He was on the Rangers, and the Rangers dealt him to Milwaukee in the Yovani Gallardo trade. And then the Rangers got him somehow. I'm trying to think of how. I think it was 2014 in a trade. So, he would have been a good fit on the Yankees. I don't know if he would have been like their closer or like a 7th or 8th man or inning guy because of the presence of Aroldis Chapman, who's better than Corey Knebel. But who knows? He would have fit nicely in that Yankees loaded bullpen. Instead, the Yanks went with Eric Jaglio. In 27, the Cincinnati Reds go with Hunter Harvey. Hunter Harvey makes the redraft. He was perceived as a bust for a while, but he came up to the Orioles this year and pitched a sub-2 ERA coming out of the bullpen for them. His destiny's probably a reliever, but who knows, maybe he does convert into a starter like a couple of these guys did. But Hunter Harvey did show a lot of potential, and he was just a late bloomer. And he would have been great on the Reds whether it was in the rotation or in the bullpen. So that would have been a great selection for them. Instead, Cincinnati goes with Phillip Ervin, which wasn't the worst pick in the world, to be honest. Okay, so now, and last but not least, I'm going to do my 2015 top 10 movies. I have an honorable mention, Inside Out. That's obviously a Disney movie, if I'm not mistaken. It is a Pixar movie. Obviously, yes, I'm right, it was Pixar. 3D animated comedy. Pete Docter was the director. Jonas Rivera was the producer. An hour and a half long movie. Very cute. All right, now my top 10 movies of 2015. 10th place, Mad Max Fury Road. Came out May 14th of 2015. George Miller was the director. He wrote it as well, or co-wrote it and co-produced it as well. Starring Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, Nicholas Hoult, Hugh Keays-Byrne, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, Riley Keough, Zoe Kravitz, Abby Lee, and Courtney Eaton. 9th place, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. A really fun movie that came out in July of 2015. 2 hours and 15-minute long movie. Christopher McQuarrie directed it and screenplayed it, starring Tom Cruise, Jeremy Renner, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vin Drams, Sean Harris, and Alec Baldwin. In 8th place, The Big Short, another cute movie directed by Adam McKay, starring Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, and Brad Pitt. In 7th place, Trainwreck. That's a funny movie. Came out in July of 2015 here in the U.S. Directed and co-produced by Judd Apatow. Barry Mandel is the other producer. Starring Amy Schumer, Bill Hader, Brie Larson, Colin Quinn, John Cena, Vanessa Bayer, Tilda Swinton, Urza Miller, and LeBron James. In 6th place, The Duff, a teen comedy film directed by Ari Sandel, starring Mae Whitman, Robbie Amell, Bella Thorne, Bianca Santos, Skylar Samuels, Romani Malco, Ken Jeong, and Allison Janney. In 5th place, The Diary of a Teenage Girl, American comedy drama film, directed by Mariel Heller, starring Belle Powley, Alexander Skarsgård, Christopher Maloney, and Kristen Wiig. In 4th place, Sleeping with Other People, a rom-com that's awesome, directed by Leslie Headland, and starring Jason Sudeikis, Alison Brie, Adam Scott, Jason Mantzoukas, Natasha Lyonne, Adam Brody, and Amanda Peet. 3rd place, Man Up, British-French rom-com directed by Ben Palmer. This was very cute. Lake Bell, Simon Pegg, Rory Kinnear, Ken Stott, Harriet Walter, Olivia Williams, and Sharon Horgan were starred in that film. In 2nd place, Brooklyn, 2015 rom-com historical drama, directed by John Crowley, starring Cyrus Ronan, Domhnall Gleeson, and Maury Cohen, Jim Broadbent, and Julie Walters. And my top movie of 2015 is Cinderella, the remake of the Disney original Cinderella, starring Kate Blanchett, Lily James, Richard Madden, Stellan Skarsgård, Holiday Granger, Derek Jacobi, and Helena Bonham Carter. So a very cute remake of an all-time Disney classic. And that's it for the show today. I know it was a long show. Had a lot to do. Tomorrow, recapping the latest virus news in the world of sports, we'll preview tomorrow's episode of Celebrity Watch Party, and we'll do my 2013 NBA redraft, my 2015 top 10 artists, and any other news related to sports that comes out, I'll have it for you as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.